Visuals coming in from Ambala at this point in time. We're also putting out the pictures of the president when she had undertaken that sortie in Sukhoi in the year 2023. On the right side are pictures from the Ambala Air Base. Of course, the message to citizens also comes in today, Gaurav, with the president undertaking this sortie. Every citizen taking pride in the courage, discipline and professionalism of our defense forces. The president's participation, sending out a message on the reliability of Rafale and how this really is a deterrent against aggression, isn't it?
It indeed is a deterrent against any aggression because every enemy air force will calibrate its policy and recalibrate its policy, as will India for future combat. Every air warfare is different from the last one. The next one will be far more intense. It will be far more versatile. Anyway, if you see, the nature of warfare is changing. Instead of contact, you don't even now cross the line of control or international border to get into the enemy territory to bomb it. Now you have long-range standoff weapons. You have your beyond visual range missiles, and each country is now trying to acquire, and India is trying to make missiles that will hit deep inside enemy territory without crossing the international border. So the nature of warfare is changing, and that is why these modern aircraft are essential. The need for these modern aircraft was felt immediately after the Kargil War in 1999-2000, and finally the acquisition started happening in 2017-18 and continues to happen through 25, 26, 27, the Rafale Marines. What does this indicate? That unfortunately in India there's a very long delay in acquisition of aircraft. Because of technology denial, there's also a massive delay in manufacturing of fighter jets in India, like Tejas, the light combat aircraft. 1984, the effort started, and even now we just have a couple of squadrons, and then the process of upgrade is now underway. Mark 1A, when will it be weaponized, and then Tejas Mark 2? It just would go on to. One, we need better technology. We need better capabilities. You cannot rely just on, foreign-made fighter aircraft like Rafale. The fuselage is to be made in India in the coming times, and that's a huge boost. But it's the fighter jet engines that India requires that will be an absolute game changer in future air warfare.
That's right.
Neha.
Gaurav, I'm just going to come back to you in a moment. I'm also bringing in our colleague Sandeep Unnithan in this discussion on the importance, Sandeep, of this sortie, really highlighting the capability of our armed forces of the Rafale platform, most importantly, which has capabilities in the sense that something Gaurav also mentioned and changed the nature of the game is long-range strike capability, multi-role missions in air-to-air, air-to-ground operations.
Absolutely. And this is President Murmu's second sortie in a fighter aircraft. She earlier took a sortie in a Sukhoi 30 MKI at Tejas Air Force Station in the east in Assam. That was in April 2023. And here she is in a Rafale here in Ambala on the western front. Multiple messages out of this sortie. The first one, of course, is that the government wants to convey the fact that if there is a crisis, it will use the Air Force as an instrument of state power. It will be the first instrument possibly that it will use. And this is a marked change from the past. Now, the Indian Air Force rules the fact that the Indian Air Force fighter jets were not used in the 1962 war with China more than 60 years ago. And that could have had a different outcome. That war in 1962 could have had a different outcome if the Indian Air Force fighter jets had been used. And what the government is basically signaling is that, air power is usually, it is a very offensive instrument of state power. And it doesn't fit in the thing of a defensive mindset. And what the government is signaling is the fact that with air power, as we've seen in the past, in whether it is a Balakot strike of 2019, where the Indian Air Force crossed the international boundary for the first time, or in 2020 in Ladakh with the standoff with China, where the Indian Air Force was literally the first forces on the ground. They were deployed in full strength to deter any possible Chinese misadventure, and all the way down to 2025 in Operation Sindoor, where the Indian Air Force carried out an outstanding role in paralyzing Pakistan's military attacking its bases, radar sites, and of course the 9 terror training sites which they crippled. And this is a very big step. And the fact that the use of the Air Force, the use of air power, the use of what several air power analysts call calibrated offensive air power, COAP, is something that this government should take full credit for, because it has kind of instilled the fear of a retaliation from India that could come from the ground, from the air, or from the sea. And in this case, it happens to be air power that is being used. So it also signals the fact that a lot of force accretion is now going to be for the Air Force. As Gaurav mentioned, that there have been several projects in the pipeline. The Indian Air Force has suffered for several years now. Its squadron strengths have been depleting. It stands after the MiG-21 retirement. It's just 29 squadrons, which is the number of squadrons that it had during the 1962 war with China. But now the government is committed to increasing the Air Force's numbers, both through domestic acquisitions, the LCA Mark 1A, several hundreds of them have been acquired, and of course Rafale jets to meet the to plug the gap between the indigenous fighter programs and of course the falling squadron strength.
Well, absolutely. Be with us, Sandeep. I'm also going to be bringing in my colleague Kamal, joining us with the very latest on that story from Ambala. This, of course, primarily is being seen, Kamal, as a domestic symbol of strength, but also conveys to other parties, external parties, that India is vigilant, capable, and determined to uphold, peace via strength in that sense, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. And 36 Rafales were delivered way back in December 2022. But during Operation Sindoor is when they were fully activated, and we saw a superior air force taking on Pakistan. So this is where the golden arrows, as they are stationed right there in Ambala. Then the rest of the set is in Hashimara in West Bengal. So they have shown their military might, and this is where the Supreme Commander really comes in. It not only will boost the morale of the forces coming at a very important and a pivotal time, but her experiencing it. Remember, this is at a high altitude, a super jet. It's a multiple roles combined into one, and remember, several of those particular parts were accommodated to be conditioned as per the Indian settings. So that upgrade also happened sometime in 2025, and this is going to be very important and significant because remember, she is here to not only experience this but also to boost the morale of the forces who are very much stationed in Ambala, and it's a very pivotal sector as far as this entire arrangement is concerned. But clearly, her coming in early this morning, and in some time from now, by around 11:30 is what we expect her to take that particular sortie. And again, as I mentioned to you, the Dassault Rafale French twin engine, this is where the superior might comes in, and remember, combining with the Indian Armed Forces as well as the Indian Air Force strength, and that's what we also saw, the number of gallantries which were given especially to the Indian Air Force. But this is a combined strength that we see of the armed forces, where Indian Air Force really taking on, and also at a time where MiG has been retired. That also happened in Chandigarh some time back. But here is a time where the Indian Air Force at this point of time firmly in position, and those 36 Rafales doing its job really well. And we saw that sort of propaganda coming in from Pakistan during Operation Sindoor regarding Rafale. But here it is, the superior might being seen, the morale being boosted by the Supreme Commander of India.
That's right. Kamal getting in those details from Ambala at this point in time. Kamal, just take us through, give us our viewers a sense of, the time that this sortie will also take, and that, and how soon will we see the president in the cockpit?
Well, definitely, because remember, she is here, and by 11:30 is the time what we do expect and anticipate her to take that particular sortie. The Air Force Chief AP Singh himself is there. Remember the air versatility, the sort of strikes on ground that this particular plane can do, and it's a fighter jet. So in that particular sense, it's the superior might, and this is not just about holding that command. It's also about experiencing about what these experienced Air Force pilots going in, and so she's going to be strapped in. She's going to be part of that particular flight, and remember, it's going to be historic. A woman president at the helm of affairs, participating. Earlier she's done Sukhoi, but now is the time that she has given a go-ahead, and she's going to be part of that Rafale sortie. So clearly, Air Force looking forward to that. It's a big day. It's a historic day. Remember, the Rafales came in way back in 2022, and the Golden Arrow, the 17th squad, which is very much stationed in Ambala, is the one. So this is where what we see is the superior might of Air Force, the versatility we saw, especially during Operation Sindoor, also getting a first-hand experience of what's really happening in. So clearly, the combat role of this particular fighter jet is something which is being much talked about, and this is where she gets a first-hand experience of it.